What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Kenobi with the Wise Guys, and today I've got a video deck profile for you. Something more on the fun side, although I think it actually could be pretty competitively viable. This is Odd-Eyes Guardragon. I hope you enjoy. So, every Odd-Eyes deck needs to run 3 of this bad boy, Odd-Eyes Pendulum Dragon. It is one of the most beautiful cards in the game and absolutely essential for the deck. This card's scale effect allows you to special summon an Odd-Eyes from the hand, deck, or grave whenever one of yours is destroyed by a card effect of battle. So this allows you to summon anything you want as long as its name is Odd-Eyes and it was properly summoned, which is pretty much amazing. Also, being a scale 8, we need it to Pendulum summon. Next up, I'm running 3 of the Odd-Eyes Mirage Dragon. Now, this might seem a strange choice to some people because its effects aren't really remarkable, but what's important is that it's a level 4 or lower dragon type monster. So you can use it to make LP. The fact that you can special summon this card off of the effect of Odd-Eyes Pendulum Dragon or just by normal summoning it from your hand is absolutely essential to the way that the deck runs. The reason I run it at 3 is because I would rather normal summon this than anything else. And so you just want to make sure that you try to open it as much as possible. Next up, I've got 2 of the Odd-Eyes Phantom Dragon. This card's awesome for a number of reasons. Its scale effect allows you to increase the attack points of one of your monsters by 1,200 during battle with another opposing monster. So this can really catch your opponent off guard if they don't read cards, which, as everybody knows in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh!, reading is literally the hardest thing in the world. The other cool thing about this one is when it's Pendulum summoned and it deals damage to your opponent, it inflicts burn damage equal to 1,200 times the number of Odd-Eye monsters in your scale. So if you've got like Persona Dragon and Pendulum Dragon, that's instantly 2,400 burn damage, which is just bonkers. Next up, I've got 1 of the Odd-Eyes Persona Dragon. This is one of our single card negates. It allows you to negate the effects of 1 monster on the field, 1 face-up monster that was summoned from the extra deck. So it's really useful. It's also a great low scale. 1 makes it really useful. I definitely love running this at least at 1. I've been wanting to bump it up to 2, but we'll see. Not for this video. Next up, the last Odd-Eyes card we run, Performapal Odd-Eyes Dissolver, easily one of the coolest cards in the game. In scale, it's essentially polymerization, and then when it's on the field, it has the ability to fusion with any card that you control. So that means your hand, your monster zones, and your pendulum zones. So being able to use this and like fusion summon itself with a low scale in order to go into Vortex Dragon is super duper useful for being able to give the maximum number of negations on board. That's it for the Odd-Eyes cards. Then we start with the engine cards. Of course, we run 3 of Servant of Endymion, easily the best pendulum card in the game right now. Get the 3 spell counters on it, and you get 2 monsters, which is just ridiculous. For the monsters that we can summon off of her, I run 1 of the Master of Magic and 1 of the Jackal King. The reason that I run 1 and 1 is just because whoever I don't have in my hand is the one that I'm going to summon off of her effect. Also, I threw in another Endymion card to search off of Spell Power Mastery, just because if I had a Servant in hand, I wanted to be able to put like a different card in my hand, so that's the reason why I chose Master of Magic. Next up, we've got 2 of the Dark Worm, and then I run 1 Gate 0. The reason I run this ratio is very specific. I would rather special summon Dark Worm than I would normal summon him, because to me, it's better as a turbo card than it is just as a regular normal summon. Obviously, it's awesome to be able to add a Gate 0 to my hand, but I would still rather normal summon the Mirage Dragon than I would the Dark Worm, because I prefer to get as many free summons as possible before I make Electromite. Speaking of free summons before Electromite, I run 2 Chronograph and 1 Time Gazer. The reason that I bumped this ratio down is because I find that opening Sorcerer and like Endymion and Servant and a couple other cards can sometimes not feel as strong as I want it to, but I still really like Chronograph. It was at its most powerful when we had the DD engine at full power, but since then it's kind of diminished, and I've been feeling a little lackluster on the card in general. But I like having a level 6 to make synchro plays with later on, and I still think that it's a really good card, especially if I need to like get an extra monster on the field before I can go into Triple Burst and my Guardragons. I will send Chronograph off of Electromite in order to get what I need. Then for the last 2 turbo cards, I run Curtain Raiser. Curtain Raiser's nice to see. His effect is only once per duel, so I don't necessarily need to open this card because I can always normal summon it or use its effect later. But if you have Curtain Raiser in your hand and you have Dragon Shrine and you have Servant of Endymion, like, your board is just going to be ridiculous because you can use activated, scale Servants, scale this, activates ability, and you're one step closer to having enough monsters to pendulum summon. Anyway, that's all the turbo cards that I run. I don't ever feel like turbo cards are like a brick, no matter how many of them you have. So that's just how I feel about that. Next up, I run 1 Sloth, obviously to summon off the Hieratic Seals at the end of my combo on my opponent's turn to lock out their extra deck, except for their Amorphage monsters. And then Destrudo is my preferred summon off of LP. Just because it allows you to recur itself, go into a synchro play once you're done making the rest of your board. So that's super duper useful, and I just definitely recommend it. In worst case scenario, if I need a low scale, I'll special summon Darkworm off of LP, but definitely Destrudo is the preferred way to go. Next up for the spell cards, I've got 3 of Spiral Flame Strike, which is absolutely one of the best cards in this deck, probably the best one really, because not only does it allow you to search for any level 7 Odd-Eyes monster like your Arc Pendulum Dragon, but if you already control an Odd-Eyes monster, this allows you to pop 1 card on the field, which can be really helpful in trying to get around certain floodgates like Gozen or other ones that would interrupt your play style. Next up, I have 2 of the Sky Iris. I like this card, but it is a brick. Ultimately, I want to see it, but I don't need it to make my plays happen. And if this was not a hard once per turn like Diagram, this would be easily one of the best cards in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! I think everybody would be playing Odd-Eyes. Then, of course, I run 1 more Terraforming just because I do want to see Iris. And, of course, Terraforming is really helpful in, getting a counter on Servant of Endymion. So that's definitely one of the reasons that I do it. But yeah, with Terraforming, I want to get to Sky Iris. That's a big deal. And then I also run 2 of the Summoner's Arts. It's basically used strictly for getting Arc Pendulum because you can search for a level 5 or higher normal monster, which Arc Pendulum is a normal monster. And so I like this card better than Duelist Alliance because Duelist Alliance is a hard once per turn. If I have 2 of these, I can use both of them, get 2 vanilla Arc Pendulum Dragons, and I won't have missed out on anything. Next up for the engines, I run 2 Dragon Shrine and 1 Foolish. This is, in my opinion, the only proper ratio. Do not run 1 and 1. Dragon Shrine, it's so hard to brick. The chances of having both of these in your hand in a deck in your first starting hand is very, very low. It's even lower because this is a 42 card main deck instead of a 40 card main deck, and that really is specifically to lower the chances of opening 2 of anything in the deck. Next up, I've got 3 Spell Power Mastery. You absolutely want Servant of Endymion in your hand. That is so mission critical. But of course, if you open Servant and this card, you can use it to get the Mighty Master, get your 2 spell counters, and help turbo out everything there. So that's for searching for engine cards. And then at last, I have 3 Allure of Darkness. Most of the cards in this deck are dark monsters, and we want to use this to fix our hand. If it's not the ideal situation, we'll just use this. Draw 2 cards, ditch the one thing that we don't need, and then that's important because obviously it's a combo deck. You want to see your combo pieces. Moving on to the extra deck, we've got our big boss monster, Odd-Eyes Vortex Dragon. This card is amazing. It's an Omni Negate. All it costs you is sending 1 card that's already face up in your extra deck back to the deck. When it's summoned to the field, it has a bounce effect, which is super nice, especially because if your opponent decides to pop this guy and it was properly fusion summoned, your Arc Pendulum Dragon will literally special summon this back, give you a bounce, and then you get to laugh all the way to the bank. Next up, another really important card, especially for time and also pushing for game. Perform Pal Gatling Ghoul is one of the better cards and most overlooked cards in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! When it gets special summoned in the field, it deals burn damage for every card on the field, and then it destroys 1 monster on your opponent's side of the field and deals damage to him again in the form of the attack points of that monster. So that's just really awesome. Absolutely one of the better cards in the game. Next up, we've got the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. If we are able to make Vortex Dragon properly, this is the card that we summon off of Agripane. It's just a great single card negation. Really, also having the 3200 is pretty cool, because with the Phantom attack boost, he goes all the way up to 4400, which is pretty nice. Next up, another monster we can go into using Destrudo and a level 7 is Borreload Savage Dragon. This card is just ridiculously overpowered. We don't always go into him because we need a level 7 in Destrudo to make him, and if we do, obviously we want to go into him even if we have like Master of Magic or a Phantom Dragon. We just want to make this guy instead because that negation is too good. You equip him with the triple burst and it's just absolutely bonkers. After that, we have the backup. Dawn Dragster can be made with the level 6 that you utilize to bring back the Destrudo. And this one, again, a single card negation. Very powerful, very useful on all of our boards. For our Xyz package, we start off with Odd-Eyes Absolute Dragon. Great card because you can overlay 2 level 7s to make him. And then if he leaves the field, he special summons an Odd-Eyes monster from your extra deck, like Meteor Burst Dragon or Odd-Eyes Vortex Dragon if you weren't able to make him. I don't always go into this card. I only usually do that when I didn't have a great starting hand, because I don't have a lot of cards that like allow me to ramp up. But this card is still really good. He can also negate attacks, which can be useful. Most people don't pay attention because he can literally detach a card, negate an attack, and then special summon back an Odd-Eyes monster from the graveyard, which can be useful in a lot of different scenarios. Also for time, we've got Red-Eyes Flare Metal Dragon. Really good card because, it causes your opponent to have to burn themselves to death to play the game. And going into time, this is probably a better, safer bet than trying to use Gatling Ghoul, depending on the situation that you're in. So definitely keep that in mind as you go. This is an awesome card in general. Next up, the only rank 4 that we run Abyss Dweller because it's probably the best rank 4 in the game right now, especially powerful against Salamangreat. Any deck that relies on graveyard effects, but specifically Salamangreat really suffers when they see this card because it's almost impossible for them to play through it, and I just really like it. Next up, I do have Phantom Knight of the Breaksword. The reason I run this is because I have 6 level 3s in my deck between the Mirage Dragons and the Servant Dragons, and the Servant of Endymion. You can make this card, and it's just a fun little interruption that a lot of people just aren't expecting. As far as the Guardragon package goes, we've got one LP. That's obviously for special summoning the Destrudo. Agripane, he'll get you either Vortex Dragon or the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. And then, of course, we run the Triple Burst Dragon, which is necessary to get the arrows that you need with LP, and then summon into Agripane later on. And then, of course, finishing off that combo, we have the Hieratic Seal of Heavenly Spheres. This card's ridiculous. It allows you to just tribute itself and special summon the Amorphage Sloth or the Persona Dragon for the negation. It's just so useful because like this plus 3 or 4 negates equals 5 to 6 interruptions of some form against your opponent's plays. And this is a non-targeting bounce, which is really super useful against the kind of just cheesy decks that try to avoid targeting as a means of protecting their boards. I also, of course, run Electromite. It's the best card in the game supporting for Pendulum. Konami, can we please have this back to 2? There's literally no reason not to give us 2 of this. 3, even without Firewall Dragon, 3 Electromite probably could happen. But, 2 would be nice just because you don't hate us. Right now I'm running 1 Saryuja. I don't go into him that often. Like I said, if I have a weird hand and I have enough monsters like before the Pendulum summon to go into Saryuja to try to like fix my hand and then summon like 3 monsters from the extra deck that would be useful to me, like a Persona Dragon, a Jackal King, and the Master of Magic, just to get as many 1-card negates on the board as I can, and then I'll try to make like something extra as well. But the 3 squares there that I can use for the extra deck plus the attack bonuses are nice, and then fixing the hand works as well. I have been thinking about cutting this guy to give me something a little more generic, like a Zephyr Metaltron, or maybe another Link 4, such as Avermax, or maybe Borreload Dragon, or Boral Sword for the OTKs. But that's where I'm at right now in this. And you guys can, of course, play test anything you want. And if you have any changes that you would like to make to the deck, that's all going to be personal preference. Next up, the side deck for meta calls. This is just kind of where I'm at right now. For mirror matches or any link spammy decks, Raw Golden Boy is always the way to go. Specifically for the Orcust matchup, Artifact Lancia. It also helps against Thunder Dragons, but like this is very specifically for Orcust. You play this card and they can't do anything on their turn. Against back row heavy decks, I've got 3 Denko Sekka, mostly because I just can't afford impermanences in real life. And also for back row heavy decks, especially useful against Mystic Mine, is Red Reboot. If they try to flip Metaverse, you just activate this card either from your hand or on the field that you set on turn 1, and they struggle to do anything after that. And then on the next turn, with your negate boards, you can just play through whatever they're trying to do. Then, of course, also for Mystic Mine, we've got the Typhoon. This is also useful in Pendulum mirror matches because it allows you to pop their scales and prevent them from Pendulum summoning. You can just play this from your hand. Really, really good option there for you guys if you have any thoughts about that. I would also consider running either Infinite Impermanence or Effect Veiler or Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. Those are also really good cards in the meta right now. And then, of course, Ash Blossom would be a viable choice as well. Just again, depending on your locals, depending on the regionals you're preparing for, that would be the way that I would go. Anyway, guys, that's all I really have time for. Shout out Yuya Sakaki, the original Odd-Eyes Master. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you can always see what we're doing here on Team Wiseguys. Have a great one. Catch you later.